I got infinity money.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Backboard. This is episode 45, by the way. We made it 45 episodes, guys. We've been really consistent, so glad you guys are kind of growing with us. And today we have a very, very special guest, one of my good friends / Lakers creator of Quest for 18, by the way. Shameless plug. My good friend Allan. So how we doing today, Allan? How we feeling? First of all, we want to welcome you to the show. And we're excited to have you today, man.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I'm glad to be on and just excited to talk hoops.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm sorry about my voice, guys. I'm going to try my best to come in and out, but
sounds better than yesterday.
It does sound better than yesterday, indeed, yeah. But just want to apologize to the audience, but
yeah, but let's hop into it, Allan. So usually when we have our guests on, we kind of start with a little bit of a backstory. So, when did you first start watching basketball? Like, what was your first experience like becoming a Lakers fan for you?
Yeah, for me, like becoming a Lakers fan started in like 2008. I, at least from my remembrance of my first game, it was like the 2008-2009 series or like 9-10, and it was the Lakers versus the Houston Rockets. And like I don't know like the game, but it was like I remember Kobe Bryant hit that, was it off the backboard off Yao Ming, that little back to pass these layup, it's the alley-oop. So it's just like that moment there, and like watching Paul Gasol, watching like Odom, Bynum, Fisher, etc., and just like that cohesion and like that group just willed me to be a Lakers fan. Also, at least one of my uncles was also a Lakers fan before me, and just him asking about that game and then turning on our TV just caught my attention, and just from there on I became a Lakers fan, and just a lot of heartbreak and a lot of pain, but at the same time I kind of started like winning championships, so I started on the right side of being a Lakers fan.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like that's really exciting, like having like a core memory like that of just remember like Kobe, like that being your introduction as a Laker fan is like kind of special. Kobe off of Yao Ming bank shot, like I don't know if it gets better than that, man, if I'm being honest.
does not.
No, but continuing on, like I know we talk Lakers basketball kind of a lot. So let's just hop into coaching. Like I feel like that's a good subject we can kind of talk about for a good minute. What was your whole closure experience with Darvin Ham? Like I know you know how I feel. We've had long conversations about this. We gave him kind of chance after chance to make like the slightest type of changes, but he really didn't show signs of improvement. But what is your overall, like now that it's over, we got a new coach, what is your closing remarks on the Darvin Ham saga?
Yeah, it was a saga I was kind of hopeful for, like hearing about Giannis. He was praising him. I thought he was going to be a great player coach, but he ended up being not either of them, both a player coach and a head coach for the Lakers. So very much a conflict of interest between him and the team, and we moved on and we found a great coach, hopefully in JJ Redick. He's saying the right things, and I just hope he follows up, because right now the Lakers are in a talk phase, talk the talk, but walk the walk moving forward into the season.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And like speaking on Darvin Ham, I think our biggest issue with him was really the lack of accountability. Like we see Darvin Ham just straight up, I don't even know how to sugarcoat, just not coach. And then he'll go out on an interview and be world's top 10 most quotable guys. Like it just, as Lakers fans, we had to deal with the losses, and then we had to deal with the cryptic Darvin Ham, and then we had to deal with every social media account posting about Ham quotes after every game. So I think that's kind of thing we talked about, even with Jake as well. For us, it's like we lost twice. Like we would lose 2 times in a night. So I think that was the hardest thing for me as a Lakers fan. I'll ask you guys your perspective, obviously, Max and Omar, about like outside looking in about Darvin Ham. But for me, I just feel like he wasn't ready for the moment. Oh, and we talk about this all the time. Like it takes a certain type of coach, takes a certain type of player to play and coach for the Lakers, like it takes a lot of different efforts. Like that's why I feel like JJ Redick, like Allan said, he seems like he has all the tools to be that guy. I mean, he's been a Duke guy. He's been hated at Duke. Like every fan base hated JJ Redick. That's just the type of player he was. Like he lives for those type of moments to put himself in tough situations. So for me personally, I hope JJ Redick can kind of accept the challenge more. And I've already seen it. Like draft night, I mean, compared JJ Redick compared to Darvin Ham, he was drawing up plays for our rookies. I don't think Darvin Ham's ever drawn up a play for us instead of squiggly lines. Like it's just a fact. But what's you guys' thoughts on Darvin Ham and whatnot, Lakers saga from the outside looking in?
Yeah, outside looking in, I can certainly sympathize with you guys. The Knicks had their fair share of years of bad coaching. And it kind of feels like now in the NBA, it's all about just swapping as many coaches as you can until you find the right one, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of. I've always been a fan of, give people a fair run, give them a fair trial, typically, at least 2-3 years, really see what they're about. And Darvin Ham had, what do you have, 2 years all in total, 2.5? Yep. So he had a shot, and certainly the Lakers, did have that Western Conference Finals run. But from all intents and purposes, it seemed like the Lakers were winning despite Darvin Ham, not because of him. So I think as long as that core is together, they'll still have a good shot with Redick. I've been someone who's come on the show and said, if I was Redick, I would not have taken this job. I think there's going to be, he's going to have to learn on the fly a lot of what it takes to be an NBA coach. Remember, he's never coached anything. He hasn't coached AAU. He hasn't coached high school. He hasn't coached college. He's never been an assistant coach, Yeah. I made this comparison before, but like Jason Kidd, his first stint as a head coach with the Nets was terrible. And then he went to the Bucks, I'm pretty sure, had a couple decent years there, got fired, and then the Bucks became a championship team. So I fear that a similar thing could happen to Redick, where maybe he could wind up being a good head coach 10 years from now, kind of like Jason Kidd currently, just coached the Mavs to an NBA Finals. I hope for his sake that he's able to learn on the fly, and it seems like he's surrounding himself with a good assistant staff to kind of help with that learning curve. But there's only so much they can do. Ultimately, it's going to be down to him. But if he's a quick learner, he's able to pick up and show that he can learn on the fly, and because he's certainly got the basketball mind to be a coach. I just fear about like those little things that you can really only find out by doing the job. And when you're in LA and when you're coaching bronze final years, there is absolutely no margin for error. If the Lakers are not winning damn near every game, you're going to get your seat is going to be under pressure. So, I'm never one to doubt that man's basketball mind. Clearly, he has what it takes up there, but it's just, it's a job that he's never been in before. So if he's either going to be able to adapt or not, it's going to be sink or swim, I think, for Redick. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, I went on the show as well and said that I don't think this is a good fit for Redick. And I thought Redick would be a better fit in Orlando or Cleveland or one of the two. Just a younger team overall, not really where the Lakers are now. And it has something to do with the expectations. Like Max said, you're in LeBron's last year. You got to make it worth it for him. And if you're not going to make it worth it for him, it's also partially on the general management. Rob Pelinka. They need to.
Rob.
We need to build something better than what you guys got. A little bit. You need a better center. You guys need to move AD to the 4. I really, really hope that JJ Redick understands that.
No, for sure. And I'll say I kind of agree with you, which we'll get into next. But I'll ask one more question while we're on the topic of JJ Redick. Allan, like, what's one thing that made you feel like, okay, I'm okay with JJ Redick being our head coach? Like, what's that one thing for you that makes you feel comfortable in like an unsure situation? Because like Max said, he has no coaching experience. So outside looking in as Lakers fans, it's really just a lot of wishful thinking, like, hey, he kind of locks into his basketball mind side and it just translates into connecting with players. So that's a big part of things. Players have personalities. Like we've seen coaches and players not get along and it kind of tear up teams. Latest example, I'll use Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton. I feel like Ayton was a great center asset to that Suns team, but since him and his coach couldn't get along, it didn't just ruin his coaching experience with Monty. He just wants to straight up leave the whole organization even after Monty left. So what's your thoughts on JJ Redick? Like, what do you think he brings to this team that made the Lakers say, hey, okay, it's time to take this risk?
Yeah, so one of the things at least caught my attention was like he talked about at least rebounding, and he pointed like the Lakers were like 29th or even like 28th in the league in rebounding. And one of the issues, of course, was Darvin Ham game planning that the Lakers would not go for rebounds. They're mostly would run back and go for transition defense, as they would normally give up a ton of fast break points, just because, like I said, they weren't a great rebounding team. And he's approaching a lot of these stuff analytically, and that's sort of convincing me. Like I said, he's saying the right things, and as long as he, like I said, keeps his word, I'm very much fine with it, because player development and rebounding were the key things that the Lakers were lacking a lot last season. And of course, you could point that to Darvin Ham, but that's also on the front office as well. So I think JJ Redick can fix those two stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, just to bring it back to Omar, like, I think he made a great point too. I think JJ Redick, since he brought out rebounding, like, he has to know, hey, we need a center upgrade. Like, that's just a fact. Our centers right now are Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes. As far as depth, no disrespect to those guys, we need like kind of a burly, bigger body. Like, it reminds me, like, that's a good reason. People are like, why did Bron have Valanciunas on his list of 3 people he would take a cut for MLE? It's because he's a big body. He can get rebounds. He can sort of stretch the floor when he wants to. Really physical center. I mean, a lot of people don't like Valanciunas when he's playing against your team because he plays really physical. Like I said it before, like, I don't like the way he's kind of pushing his body into Anthony Davis in the post. But having that asset on your team, it's a different story. And I feel like we lack physicality at that big position. Jackson Hayes, he's a good like backup type option, but like as far as just straight up, that's our only backup big. It just doesn't make me comfortable. Like he's not the best at kind of, I don't know how to say it. I'm not trying to trash his game. He just doesn't have the best touch. Like his only means of scoring is off of a lob. Like he can't really catch the ball and do his own work. He has no real post game. Sorry, Jack, if you're watching this, it sounds crazy, but he's not as accomplished offensive player as Valanciunas is, nor is he a better rebounder or really a defender, in my opinion, as Valanciunas. So I feel like that was a big option off the board. And for us Lakers fans, it's not really a lot of ways we can go besides trading. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I agree with you. I think JJ Redick, like him starting off talking about our rebounding problems in the press conference, really made me happy. There was times when we were watching games, especially in the PSF app, together, just talking, like chatting in there. Rebounding sucks. The only person who rebounds on our team is Anthony Davis. That's a given. We'll literally yell at our team like, AD, he's got 18 rebounds, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got D'Lo, Reeves, Bron, and whoever else is on the floor at the time. Rui, just looking at the ball, expecting Anthony Davis to go up and get every rebound, and it's just not sufficient for him. He can't. Well, he can do it, but it would be better for our team if we had an overall rebounding strategy. So that he mentioned that like right away, it made me happy. Also, he talked about, I don't know if you guys seen that quote in Summer League where he said we were way more efficient when we were running plays opposed to just 70% of the time just running out there and doing nothing. Crazy shot at Darvin Ham before you take your first coaching game, but I kind of agree. I just feel like maybe for the first time in a couple years, we can actually get some set plays ran, not just for LeBron and AD, but getting the other guys involved too. So that's what makes me hopeful about JJ Redick. But obviously, like Max mentioned as well, like he's still a first-year head coach. This can go completely off the rails, like the Nets situation, and we could just collapse. Last year, LeBron potentially couldn't. Nah, I'm not gonna say AD. I think AD's here.
But still have one more thing on the Nets that the Nets don't have, and that's a championship.
True, but I don't know.
It's not a complete Nets job.
It just makes me a little bit nervous on that part, but I'm hopeful as a Lakers fan with like what he's presented to us so far. But words are words. I got to see it in action, obviously.
Yeah, that's fair. Earl, you just mentioned like JJ at the Summer League game dropped that now very quotable quote. To the Lakers fans here, what have y'all thought of the Lakers so far in the Summer League? You know, they've played a lot more games because of the California Classic. A lot of teams, I know my Knicks are just playing the second game today, but the Lakers have had pretty sure 4 games under their belt already.
I also want to add something to that question, if you don't mind, Max.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a lot about the center position with the Lakers.
Yeah.
I want an option from Earl and I want an option from Allan.
Okay.
Who do you guys think is a comparable center you guys can afford?
Yeah.
That you would like on your starting position?
All right, bet. Yeah. Allan, you want to go first or you want me to start us off?
Yeah, I'll go. Looking at least available options, I seen Wendell Carter, I seen like Walker Kessler. So like between those two guys, I'm looking at Walker Kessler. I love his defense, and looking at him against Zach Edey in the summer league, he blocked him, and it's kind of crazy to see like of course he's a more NBA experience, but like for him to block was it like 7'2" foot center like Zach Edey, who of course in college was dominating in the post. That's just a glorious sight to see right there. And what was our first question again? Sorry.
Just what are your overall thoughts on kind of the Lakers summer league and how that's gone? You know, who's been playing well, who's been impressing, who's maybe hasn't been living up to expectations. Just kind of general thoughts on what you've seen from the summer ball.
Yeah, for a summer league team, of course, although we haven't won a game, Dalton Connect has impressed me, and him along with Maxwell Lewis, he showed some strides in the second half. I'm looking at this team with hope, but not too much excitement, just because defensively, this team as a whole is not really good. They're missing a lot of hustle guys. They're missing that defensive guy that you need, along with your offense. And part of the offensive struggle is that they can't make shots right now, and that's including Bronny James at this moment. So yeah, those are my thoughts right now on the Lakers.
Yeah, then I guess I'll just hop in right after. For me, I kind of have similar thoughts as far as free agent center. Well, not free agent centers, tradable centers for us. Wendell Carter is kind of on the top of that list for me. He's a guy who can kind of stretch the floor, good defense, good size. And I feel like as far as like plug and play ability next to Anthony Davis, that's the most realistic option. And shout out to this. I'm kind of taking this from Allan and Jake because they opened my perspective on this. He's probably more plug and play ready next to Anthony Davis just because his shot, AD's shot is just not there right now. He would probably be the easier option to kind of fill in as far as like going to center and moving AD to the floor. Now, Walker Kessler, I would love AD and Walker Kessler together. Like that defensive duo at the 4 and 5 would be kind of what I wanted. Shout out to Knicks fan when I wanted Mitchell Robinson next to Anthony Davis like a year or two ago. Like I felt like it kind of gives me those type of vibes as far as like two big physical centers who are going to lock down that paint. And God, we need it. So that's pretty much the two options I have. Now, moving to Summer League, Moses Brown. He joined our Vegas Summer League team, and he's been playing really good basketball. Like he's not getting a lot of minutes, but he's playing efficient. Every time he checks in, he makes some type of impact. I mean, he was looking like Moses Malone out there in the paint, shaking him up, doing dream shakes, hook shots. Like his touch was there, and it made me realize, like, hey, maybe he should be starting. Like we talk about Summer League. Let me slow down. Summer League team right now, we're playing awful. And the reason I say that is it just feels like we have no flow. Like there's no certainty on what we're doing out there on the floor. It kind of reminds me of like the Darvin Ham days. Like I know these guys are kids. They're still young. They're growing as far as like learning the NBA pace. But sometimes I watch the game, I'm like, hey, why doesn't Dalton have the ball? Like he is our 17th pick. He should be able to get whatever shot he wants. Other times I'm like, okay, they kind of got Bronny in the corner. And if you watch some of the replays, like 2 of those shots he airballed last night, it was 2 seconds left on the clock. So it's like, hey, well, 2 out of 3 of those he airballed. 1 of them he made them. So I guess you learn after you keep getting those grenade balls. But yeah, I feel like the flow on offense is just not there. Most of the time we scored, it was off of defense and transition. So our set offense in Summer League is just awful. I think that's what I can say. Besides, like Allan said, Dalton Connect, he's been playing really good. Just watching Summer League in general, he's been one of my top players overall, up there with Reed Shepherd. He's been playing amazing. Shout out to Reed. Ricky Council on the Sixers, he's been playing good ball. And I'm gonna put my boy up there too. I feel like he deserves to be on. I know we haven't won, obviously, but the stats are the stats. Like he can shoot the 3 ball, he can create his own shot. He's a really underrated playmaker. I didn't know that much about his playmaking game, but it looks good. Defense is getting there. I can see the learning adjustment from, like Max said, like we kind of had an advantage playing California Classic to now. Like we seen a jump on his game from there to here. Like he's scoring 19 a game now. So I'm excited about that. So Summer League, we're not winning games. It sucks, but development wise, I like the progress that Dalton is playing with. As far as Bronny, I feel like he's learning, man. Like it shouldn't be a whole lot of I don't even want to use the word pressure, like expectations. Like he's a 55th pick. Most Laker fans know the Bronny path was meant for him to kind of grind in the G League, develop his game, get better that way. And he's gonna play 1 or 2 games with his dad just to make like the historic thing. And we just go from there. Like it shouldn't be all this pressure as far as just development on his side. Like it's gonna take some time. And for me, for Bronny, if I could tell him anything, just confidence, man. You got to go out there and play confident. Like if you have the ball in your hand, be aggressive. Go look to score. Don't wait till the last minute of a shot clock and try to put something out. Like go be physical, be aggressive, and get to your game. Like that's what Summer League's about. It's not about just I don't know what to call it.
Yeah,
He just doesn't look aggressive.
Everybody's gotta chill with Bronny James. I know you guys gave him a relatively larger contract for a rookie. Especially
well, that's the thing. I've seen like 4 rookies in that 45 to 55 range getting the same bag. But I get it though.
There's been 3 second-round players that have locked down 4-year deals. Tyler Kolek and Bronny James so far, and one more I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think someone did yesterday.
Alex said something really interesting in the chat. Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. both look really good. I agree with you. Both can take Mike Conley's spot very, very soon, and we should be looking. I'm not sure if they're gonna trade him like this season or
Mike
next
Conley.
season. Yeah,
you don't trade a guy like Mike Conley is a vet. Like I
think keep him on the bench for the ride or something. I don't know, but
yeah,
we got to make space for both of those guards.
I think the thing on bringing in, okay, it reminds me of the Chris Paul thing. Like, what's his name? Stephon Castleton. He's not gonna be like. Oh, what happened?
He said Terry Johnson.
Oh no,
nothing.
I was just saying like Stephon Castleton, like he's not gonna be like 100% great off the rip, like, but you bring in a guy like Chris Paul to help develop. I feel like the same case is for like Mike Conley. The reason why you go throw assets to get a Rob Dillingham is to have that type of guy train up your younger guy. So I feel like there's a world where Mike Conley stays around. Maybe not like in the future he passes the torch, but right now Conley's a great guard. It's gonna be hard to kind of instantly replace that production.
Yeah, not right now. Talking about later down the line, relatively. What do you think, Allan? Sure. Anyway, but I figured we can kind of all lean off the Lakers a little bit, maybe talk about Team USA, how they just kind of disrespected the crap out of Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, I was about to say, the finals MVP. But without saying too much, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's Nike's fault? Do you guys think it's just a decision the coaches made? What do you guys think?
Yeah, for me, I really don't know. Like, if I can give the most honest answer, I probably should be more educated on the subject, but I haven't looked a lot into like the whole Jaylen Brown and the Nike type of connection. I know they've had problems in the past, disagreements, or whatnot. So
yeah, they said it's coming from like the anti-Semitic thing and how he defended Kyrie Irving with the anti-Semitic movie.
Oh, then I have no.
It was kind of like he was protecting his teammate in the moment.
Are you talking about he was protecting Kyrie? Got you. I mean, I know. I feel like the whole situation is complicated, to say the least. And the thing about these type of situations is, like Nike, they're representing the team, the U.S. So, not defending Nike, not defending Jaylen Brown. Once again, I'm kind of neutral in the situation because I don't know enough information. But apparently, those are the reasons why Jaylen Brown was left off the team. And it is starting a lot of controversy online. So that's kind of what I have about that.
Does anybody else have an idea or thought?
Yeah, I don't really know. If there's a reason for anyone to not want Jaylen Brown on the team. I mean, he's clearly shown that he's, worthy of at least consideration if we're not going to go with some of the older guys. I think Jaylen Brown is in the prime of his career right now. Obviously, he's got good chemistry with Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum on that team. Seems to be pretty well respected across the league. So, who knows why he's not on that team? There might be just some backdoor shenanigans going on there. You never know. Yep. But it could also be just, the Derek White narrative, which kind of, I think, thanks to Lakers' new coach, JJ Redick, has kind of got a little bit out of control now. Derek White has become the new Mike Conley, in the sense that Mike Conley used to be so underrated that he eventually became overrated because everyone talked about how underrated he is. I feel like that's Derek White now, where he was so underrated, but now everyone talks about how underrated he is. Like, oh, Derek White's so good. He's the perfect role guy.
Ready to crown him.
He's actually become a little bit overrated. And it's like, I like Derek White as much as that. I think he's a great player. Putting him on Team USA, I think, is a little bit jumping the gun, certainly over Jaylen Brown. Is jumping the gun, but I think that talks about
even over Trae Young
on the show last week. And Allan, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this. What do you think about the Team USA roster construction now that we've seen them after 2 games? Who are some guys that you think were left off the squad that you would have liked to see be there?
Yeah, at least start on Jaylen Brown. I don't think he's the right fit for them. Of course, he's a great talent, but Team USA has a ton of on-ball guys and guys who can hustle. And I think that although Jaylen Brown, of course, would be effective, they have guys like him. They have Anthony Edwards. They have his teammate Jason Tatum, LeBron James, 80 in a sense. So they need these, especially for this international tournament, you could say, or / international game. They need a ton of these sort of role players and players who know their job. And I think that's Derek White. I think that you need those Derek Whites on your team to succeed, where he's playing a significant role or playing 5 to 10 minutes in important segments of the game. And him, I'm trying to think of a couple other players, kind of like Jimmy Butler as well. Like those type of guys, you need those hustle guys.
Yeah.
Along with, of course, those on-ball scorers, in my opinion.
You know what? I see a comparison that you said, Allan, from last year. It kind of made me, because when this happened, I questioned it. Okay. Why was Josh Hart on Team USA last year? Probably because he was the hustle guy.
Yeah. I think for the same reason Derek White's on there now.
Exactly. I just connected it like that, but I was always questioning why that was the case, because I didn't understand it over so many other guards. And also, just to say, even putting Derek White over a Trae Young or somebody that can affect the ball and run your offense is very questionable. I agree with Max. I believe people have talked about Derek White so much to the point where they think he should be an all-star and
he's better than Jalen Brunson.
All right, we're not going to go that far. But get better than Terry Johnson first.
Okay.
Does nobody know who Terry Johnson is? Does nobody get that?
No, we get it.
I know it's a Cameron Payne joke, but I don't get the connection yet because I've seen you talk about it on your TikTok. Shout out to Omar's TikTok, Nickscape. Follow up. Make sure you guys like every video.
It's I understand it a little bit more last year, where it's guys don't really want to go in and play some random off-year FIBA tournament. I understand that you got to fill out the rosters with your Josh Harts, your Walker Kesslers were on there. Okay, fine, whatever. We lost. Really, who cares? I think this year expectations are going to be a lot higher. And personally, like I talked about last week, I would have liked to see more of a veteran presence on there, but. This team, for all intents and purposes, should get it done. But we saw yesterday with Australia, nothing is given. I saw somebody comment on Twitter where it's nothing is more dangerous than a C+ NBA player in the Olympics. And that has never been more true than Jock Landale yesterday. He was making the USA team look
he was dogging MB. Okay.
Really?
That's a perfect transition. Not really transition, but the 2 best players on this team. No. Okay. Yeah. 2 best players on this team are both Anthony Edwards and Anthony Davis. Hands down. Anthony Edwards, credit to him. I know when that quote came out, a lot of people were kind of talking about it. Oh, he's kind of arrogant, all these different things, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to lie. The team was running through Ant. He becomes a starter, goes on a nice, decent run. I just think the way his youth and the way he runs the game at that pace in Euroball, it looks good, man. He's playing really good. And then Anthony Davis, don't get me started on that agenda. He should be a starter over Embiid. I'm sorry, I've seen enough. I'm just saying the numbers don't lie. Anthony Davis is so good. And I think the world, Allan was talking about this. Jake was talking about this. Shout out to Quest for 18 again. Another shameless plug. We had a conversation about this. Anthony Davis is getting so much love now because he's not in a Lakers jersey. I stole that from Jake and Allan. He's getting so much love right now because he's not in a Lakers jersey. He's been doing this. These are the same things he's doing every night in and night out. And people say, oh, it's LeBron on the team, whatever, it's Lakers. But now he's putting on that Team USA, the America jersey, and people can give him his respect. And I love that for him. He's playing defense at a high level, especially in Olympic basketball. I mean, there's technically the goaltending rule, so this is just free money for Anthony Davis. He can pretty much jump up there and block him whenever he wants to, which I love to see. And on offense, like, he can kind of just let his game come to him. He doesn't really force a lot of shots. He just plays through the flow of the offense. So I love what I'm seeing from him. Bron, Bron is Bron. Like, he's an old head. He's going to get his highlight plays there. I'm not really expecting a lot from him. Not like saying he can't, but it's a younger team. Like, he's there for veteran leadership, and he's going to make big plays when we need it. So for me, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis have been locked in, and you love to see it. So those are the two guys. I know you asked about who we're kind of looking at. I like both of those guys. They've been playing great.
Yeah, Allan, what do you think about, kind of the way the team's been playing as a whole, but also specifically your two Lakers on there, how they've been doing?
Yeah, I think Team USA has struggled early. Of course, they did for a blowout Australia to begin with, but of course, like you said, they struggled near the end, and I think that's part on Steve Kerr's coaching, but also like Joel Embiid is not looking that good in my opinion, and everybody's praising Anthony Davis, and in my opinion, maybe I'll take, but eventually Team USA is gonna turn on Joel Embiid and go to Anthony Davis sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a potential for both of them to start? Have AD at the 4 and Embiid at the 5. Do you see a world where that happens or no?
Potentially, but I think they would only throw that scenario against like a France potentially. I don't think they throw that against like a Spain or etc. I think that if they want to match big for big, it would have to be against France.
Yeah, that lineup sounds pretty clunky. I'm not gonna lie. You're just like clogging up the paint and stuff with Embiid and Anthony Davis.
I feel like it works. Like, if you want to go bag for bag, big for big versus France, I think in a world, yeah, it could work. Because the thing about it is, Embiid can shoot. Like, he can shoot threes at I'll say a decent level, a high level. So in that case, Anthony Davis or Embiid, you can interchange. You can run either one of those guys at the 5, and you can still have a center who can shoot. You can have a center who kind of dominates in the paint, and Anthony Davis, and it will work. But we're forgetting about this. Kevin Durant's not even back yet. He's going to be back soon. Like,
Sure.
I'm assuming he'll be back the time the real games start, like the Olympics actually starts. So Kevin Durant can easily be plugged in there at the 4. I mean, there's your 7-foot+ guy. I know we've all seen the jokes who can shoot. He can still defend. Like, he's been a pretty decent defender on the Suns. So there could be a plug and play option there. And that's why I say, like, this team, like, Max was on to something. Like, when you make this type of team, you really go for star power and you kind of try to figure it out. I think Steve Kerr has an obsession with running small ball lineups, and I think, hey, the community is like, cut that out. Go put in Ant. Go put in Tatum. We're not running that same lineup as last game, and it worked a little bit better. But for me, I'll kind of talk about like closing games. I did get a little bit nervous. Max is right. Nothing is just given. Every game in this tournament is going to be earned. It's the USA. Everybody wants to be the team in the documentary that takes out Team USA. They want to be the team that cancels the doc. Like, we're not even going to film this. It's over. They want to be that team so they can make their own documentary and say, hey, you know how historic that is? Hey, we took out the USA. Like, that's alone, that's enough to give praise for a country for years. Like, that's a story you tell to your great grandchildren. Like, that's what USA Olympic, well, I say USA. That's what Olympics is. Like, a lot of us, like, yeah, we have NBA ball, but Olympics is so much bigger for that. Like, we're playing for countries. Like, I think that's what makes it, like, you have to be ready for the moment. Like, you have to be able to close these games. I agree. We play really sloppy towards the end. So hopefully we can use these expedition games to kind of figure things out going forward. But yeah, we got to definitely clean some stuff up. And I think Steve Kerr has to really figure out. He really has to figure out his lineups. Like we already know, Steve Kerr is not the best with lineups, the Warriors. So it's kind of translating a little bit. Like you have all these bigs. In the first game, he wanted to run like 3-guard, 4-guard lineup. Shout out to Darvin Ham. He would have been drooling at the opportunity. So hopefully he can kind of, take a little bit of Eric Spoelstra DNA. I know he's on that staff and kind of fix the lineups a little bit. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. I think, like you said, Earl, there's a lot of pressure on the U.S. There always is. Last Olympics, we were pretty dangerously close to losing, if I remember. The one that was, I believe, technically played in 21, but the one that Durant absolutely carried. We were really close to losing, I think, multiple times in that tournament, but Durant put the team on his back and said, we're not going to lose this.
Yeah.
Do we have someone like that can do that? Can Anthony Edwards, quite literally carry this whole team with 30-point games? That remains to be seen. If he can, then fair play. I think, he's earned the right to be the number one option. But until then, I think it is going to be tough. Just moving on kind of back more to the NBA side here. There hasn't been a ton of free agency signings. A lot, most of the good guys obviously went out the way early. But, we have seen a couple minor ones. We saw Saddiq Bey get signed. We saw Cameron Payne get signed now. There's still guys in free agency like Tyus Jones, who's still not on a team. So I guess we'll start with Allan then, but we can just kind of go around. Are there any thoughts on kind of the way that free agency is shaking out? Anyone that got signed recently on a minimum deal that could be a steal, or someone who's yet to be signed that you've got your eye on either for your team specifically, or just someone who might make an impact somewhere?
Yeah, for very much in general, one guy I'm shocked that hasn't got signed, and of course some people say due to his size, but Tyus Jones. I always tell Earl about this, and also release our Quest for 18 podcast. Check him out. Tyus Jones is a top, he's not gonna say top 5 player, but he's a great starter and he's also a good backup. And I always point out this stat: he's been was it 6 or 7 years straight the best assist to turnover ratio player in the NBA. And shown by also his game with the Wizards, the amount of assists and the amount of these less turnovers he gets, and he kind of helped that Wizards team play decent, you could say. And he's just a player that I want on my team, and I think NBA team should want him as a backup. We're beginning contenders or pretenders.
Yeah. Apparently, according to Zach Lowe, there's just been a ton of offers Tyus Jones have received. That's also why the Knicks ended up signing the campaign for the minimum, because Tyus Jones was getting offers from everywhere else. We don't have a ton of money to offer Tyus Jones, so in return, campaign will do. But that's what I've been hearing. A ton of offers. It's not like he doesn't have anywhere to go to. I think he's just taking his time and making a careful decision on where he wants to go.
Yeah, he wants to be a Laker. That's what this is about. He's waiting for Rob Pelinka. Let me wake up, stretch, do my job, clear some roster spaces. No, but all jokes aside, I think he's just kind of waiting for the market to settle. I know that sounds crazy, but the trade market is at a complete still right now. A lot of role players that you would think will be available. Some GMs are trying to get a high price for him. So I think he's kind of just waiting to see how teams shape. And I think we're going to see a lot more movement in the next couple of weeks after Summer League concludes, after GMs kind of had these conversations and GM greetings and mingles. I think they're going to go home, write in their notebooks, make phone calls back, and start working out some of these harder deals that kind of been in stalls lately. So I think Tyus could definitely find himself on, a competitive plus type of team, like either championship contending team or a team trying to get to that place. Lakers, as far as just building depth. So I feel like his market is definitely there. Everybody would love a Tyus type Jones. I think he was what me and Allan talked about this stat a lot. He was number 1 or 2 in turnover to assist ratio, and having a guard like that, it's important, especially when it comes to winning basketball. Lakers, we've struggled in that department as far as just completely throwing the ball out of bounds, even from LeBron James. Bron's had 5+ turnover games many times last season. Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell. So having a guy who kind of cares more about taking care of possessions and he's capable of it, I think it'll be good for this team, whether that's a starter, whether that's a backup point guard. Either way, I wouldn't mind either way, depending on what the roster looks like. So Tyus Jones, we talked about it last year. We wanted him at the deadline. That hasn't changed for me, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed for Allan either. So that's one guy. Shout out to Pat Bev too. It was breaking news. He just signed overseas. So maybe the podcast is going international. So podcast Bev. I almost said podcast P. Shout out to Paul George. Yeah.
Pat Bev podcast.
But yeah.
Another player that I do think is going to make an impact somewhere is Gary Trent Jr. I feel like people forget not only how good he was a couple of years ago. Granted, it has been a couple of years since he was really just playing some great basketball in Portland, but he's also fairly young. I think he's only like 25, 26. Like he's really just now entering his prime.
Yeah.
I think that's a guy that a lot of teams can use. You know, you talk about shooting. You know, obviously the obsession now is everyone on the court needs to be able to shoot. Everyone needs to be able to, you know, a 40% three-point shooter. Surround your talent with knockdown shooters.
Yeah.
I don't see why Gary Trent does not fit that mold. He has had a couple rough years. Granted, his shooting hasn't been as great as of lately. I think he went to Toronto this past year via trade or something and definitely tanked his stock, which is probably why he hasn't been signed yet. But I can definitely see him going to a team like the Lakers, like the Clippers, that really just need someone on like an MLE or like maybe not a veterans minimum, but like one of those like 10 to 12 mil, maybe 1 year prove it deals. I could definitely see Gary Trent Jr. having a real impact on these teams because when he was like 22 on Portland with Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, I'm pretty sure he would start at the 3 on those teams, or if not, come off the bench and play extended minutes. He was great. He was having 20-point games, hitting shots off picks, you know, corner threes, actions. He was fantastic on those teams. So I still think it's crazy to say left in the tank when the guy's like 26. It feels like he's been around forever, but I think Gary Trent behind Tyus Jones is probably the second like sleeper pick in free agency right now. If I just had to highlight someone.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Like I heard that his market isn't as high, but like you said, it is kind of interesting as far as like being a plus defender. He can shoot the 3 ball. It's not really a lot of weaknesses in his game, I feel like, especially for that price range, which teams would sign him at. I think it's just another instant of like teams kind of waiting. I think the trade market is holding up a lot of teams because some teams want to get better via trading. Some teams have to get rid of players before they can kind of open up their MLEs and all those exceptions and stuff like that. So maybe that's what the holdup, and he's kind of waiting and patiently to see, hey, what's the best option for me right now? And I don't blame him. I feel like times like this, especially if you want like a multi-year deal, you got to be patient. I know he probably doesn't want to be on the Raptors anymore. No disrespect to that organization. I just feel like they're kind of in the rebuilding stage. I think that's fair to say. Rebuild. Yeah, full rebuild. So yeah, I think he's just waiting to see where his new home is going to be for the next 3 years, which is fair.
Yeah. I did want to mention that you said earlier that a lot of trades were being held up and stuff, and a lot of that I remember. Because Walker Kessler's not only connected to the Lakers, he's also connected to the Knicks. Leon Rose really, really wants him. And I reported on my channel, shout out to Nick's Stapio, follow that on TikTok. Yes, shameless plug, I don't care. Regardless, I said that, excuse me, that, sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, I feel like, he's right. Like Walker Kessler, as far as bigs, he's the premium big on the market. Like he's a guy that pretty much every team's been calling about him, and honestly, funny enough, Lauri Markkanen as well. Like, so I don't know. I feel like the Jazz are kind of taking their time. If they are going to trade 2 pieces like that, I'm sure they want to maximize the best deals available. So, and speaking of Lauri Markkanen, I feel like that's an okay transition. Did you guys see like the Warriors as well? They kind of engaged in talks. They thought they were going to get it done with Moses Moody, but apparently they want Pods. I think Kuminga as well. So that's a little bit interesting. I think he's really just Danny Ainge is really just playing like what we do in Sleeper, just pressing that button, players available for trade. And he's just kind of seeing what's out there. Like, hey, what can I really get for this? He's pulling a Shams.
Yeah, what I meant to say is Danny Ainge got the price up on Walker Kessler. He wants at least 1 first-round pick from anybody. Underline at least, because he's looking for more than that. And he wants a really top pick. Danny Ainge is not playing fair, respectfully. I don't like Danny Ainge. He did that. He did the stuff with Donovan Mitchell in free agency. We thought it was a done deal and everything, but he turned around and took the Cavaliers offer. I don't like Danny Ainge as a businessman, and I think that after, and by the way, just to mention, it was those three. It was Pajamensky, it was Kuminga, and that last guy you mentioned, John Kuminga, with another couple of picks for Lauri Markkanen. So if you put in Lauri Markkanen on that squad, you're getting a Chicago Lauri Markkanen again. You're not getting a Utah Lauri Markkanen, because the only guy that Lauri Markkanen's got in Utah is Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
Wait, to what team?
It's a good point. Like, the Lauri's not going to have the same impact on a Golden State team that has Steph and Andrew Wiggins. You know, he's not going to be the number one option like he is in Utah. He's got free reign. I do think he'd probably be somewhere. I wouldn't say it's quite Chicago Lowry. I think, you know, he'd probably be somewhere in the middle. I could see him. He'd still be the number two, and I think Curry would lean on him heavily offensively, but certainly it's always going to be It's always going to be revolving around Steph Curry. So Markkanen, I think, would make Golden State a better team. Obviously, if they have to trade Kuminga and Pajinski and Moses Moody, maybe not. At that point, you're giving up too much, but it makes sense why they want to get him. And I will say, if there is one thing that we have learned from like free agency and like how kind of the NBA landscape is stacked up these last few weeks, the West is absolutely stacked. Like, the West is 12 to 13 legitimate playoff teams deep. So I'll pose this question, I guess, specifically to Quest for 18 host, but also Omar, of course, chime in as you will. What teams are really out West? Like, what teams are really the favorites and standing in the way of like the Lakers' quest for 18? Because if they even want to get back to the conference finals, they're going to have to go through some behemoths out West. There's no easy matchups in a West first round. So what teams out there really kind of feel like are going to be the roadblocks in the West?
You got to start, Allan.
Yeah, I'll take this one. And like, for like Minnesota, casually, of course, Denver. I'm never going to count Phoenix. I still think they have a good roster. They re-signed a ton of players. Like I said, of course, KD, Devin Booker. They they got Josh Okogie again, and they added a couple other guys on that team. So I'm never going to doubt Phoenix too much. And just always like Dallas, man. Like, although, like, I don't think I saw that projected star lineup. Was it like Luka, Kyrie, Clay at the 3, and whoever at the power forward and center? That I think it's gonna be terrible. But shout out to Jason Kidd. Maybe he can find something with that. But I still won't count Dallas, even though that projected star lineup is absolutely defensively terrible.
Yeah. I'll just continue on from there. I'll go Kings. I feel like the new addition with DeMar DeRozan. I feel like Kings were a team we already struggled with. Anthony Davis has some type of problem with guarding Sabonis. He's never won against him in his career, which is absolutely insane. So we're changing that this year. This year, Sabonis will not win against Anthony Davis in the season. So I'm gonna hot take right now.
Clip that.
Adding on to that, I said the Grizzlies. Like, the Grizzlies have always been like a really good young team. Only difference last year, obviously, the whole roster got hurt. Not just John Morant, Jaren Jackson missed some time. I mean, I even though like everybody, even Derrick Rose was getting hurt on that roster. Like, every single person, Desmond Bane,
even Marcus Smart, and he's
Marcus Smart as well. He got traded there, played one game, got hurt. Also, along with these teams, I would even say.
I mean, we haven't even mentioned the Thunder yet, have we?
Oh, yeah. Thunder.
Thunder and Timberwolves, the two defending West Conference Finals teams. They both
the
arguably
Thunder.
got better. Thunder definitely got better.
Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso instead of Josh Giddey. I take that any day if I'm OKC.
That's why I always say, man, when we talk about basketball, the basketball is the wild, wild west. That's why I love Western Conference basketball. It's hard for you to turn on a game and it not be competitive, like if it's West versus West, unless you're playing like the. But I'm not gonna say any names because when I said that like 2 years ago, then we started getting crushed by those teams. So I'll say the West is pretty competitive all around. Like it balanced itself out. So I'm excited for this year. Like, hopefully we can continue to get. Well, hopefully we can try to get a little bit better. Not continue because we haven't done anything yet. But yeah, I'm excited, man. It's gonna be really fun. I feel like there's not a lot of weak teams in the West, But
yeah,
I feel like
I gotta say one thing though.
it's like
I
8
gotta, my bad.
No, you're good. I'm just counting to myself.
I gotta disagree with Allan on the Mavericks situation. While I feel like Kyrie might be a defensive liability and Klay Thompson, I do feel like they have the front court to be able to hold them down, right? I do think the additions of Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, you have those two at your disposal. You also have Derek Lively coming off your bench. Then they just signed Neji Marshall, who's a huge defensive plus. I mean, they start to build their defense really, really good around Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving because they realize that's the one thing they're missing. If they had better defense to be able to contend and holding down Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they would be the series would be 7 instead of 5 and not losing by 25 or 27.
Also, those role players just gotta hit open shots. That's the biggest thing too.
Yeah.
Like watching that playoffs, I've seen so many just absolute bricks, air balls from Mavericks role players. It made me sick, not gonna lie. As a Lakers fan watching the Celtics get a free ring. No offense. No.
That was literally a free ring, bro. It was so free. It was so free. Now
Grimes will help the Mavs with that. Don't you worry, Mavs fans. Quentin Grimes will fix the defensive problems. Will fix the open three problems.
Forgot about Quentin Grimes too.
Best pick of the offseason. I've always been, a big Quentin Grimes supporter. Even when he was just a role player on the Knicks, Grimes has always been my boy. I'm curious, Allan, are there any like Lakers players, like kind of maybe young guys that are a little lower down the rotation that just the guys you stick up for, the guys you have a soft spot for, is someone you just think like, yeah, if that guy played more, he would definitely do better. Like the world doesn't realize how good this guy is.
Yeah, I think one of the obvious names is Max Christie. Like if you watch his summer league, at least year 2, he was a great on-ball player. He was a good 3-and-D player, and he looked like a leader on the court. And he's looked NBA ready for most of that summer league, you could say, stint, you could say. So it's just like for Max Christie, I hope he plays more. I hope he's the backup shooting guard with whoever JJ Redick chooses. But him, I talk about Earl, like Sky Pippen Jr. I wish was a player that he got time. Like if you saw his games with Memphis, like I said, of course Memphis was a injury riddled team, but he looked very good in my opinion when he was playing for that Memphis team that was injury riddled, and he won a couple games with them, and he played good. And whenever our point guard situation wasn't looking that hot, I was hoping Sky Pippen Jr. was going to get an opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you think that Max Christie could play point guard at all? Is that something that's in his skill set or not really?
Nah, not really.
He's more like a
lead guard. Yeah, he's primarily 3-and-D.
Yeah, he's more of a 3-and-D type of guy. Like he's not a bad playmaker, but I think he's better hunting for his own mid-range shots, catch and shoot type vibes, and focusing on that, and then just straight up defense. I think that's the best version of him. I just don't see him kind of taking time to be like a straight up playmaker, setting up other guys like for a full course of a game. Like I think he's more like a 2/ sometimes maybe slide to 3 depending on the lineup. But yeah, I agree with Allan. I think those are 2 great names. I'll throw in another one. Well, I don't even think it's underrated yet. I'll just throw in Dalton Connect because he hasn't played with us yet. I think he has a unique opportunity to get some good backup minutes. As far as like position, I'd probably say like backup 2/3. I mean, he's like 6'6", 6'7". Obviously, he has to put on a little bit of muscle. Everybody does going into the league, but he looks good. Like as far as creating his own shot, running off of that pick and roll action, I see him try to like call for the screens, get to the mid range. Difference between getting a screen between Colin Castleton and Anthony Davis is I don't even know what the biggest gap I can think about, but yeah, it's a big difference. So seeing him play with Anthony Davis, seeing him play with LeBron James, I think it's gonna be really cool to see. But yeah, going into next season, I think it's gonna be Dalton Connect and Max Christie for me. Like I've been a big Max supporter. I know I talk about him pretty much anytime I can plug him in. I try to. his potential is just it's there, man. I just feel like Darvin Ham didn't give him his opportunities. And we talk about like real game time. Like the biggest thing, like even starting off the season, he didn't have the best. Yeah, he didn't have the best intentions. Like Darvin Ham said, "Hey, we want to put in more experienced guys." Okay, how is Max Christie gonna become an experienced guy if he doesn't get a chance to play NBA minutes? And when he did play NBA minutes, yeah, he messed up at times, but he's a quick learner. Like the same mistakes, he was really passive, getting silly turnovers. Like 2-3 games later, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't the best catch and shoot shooter. Well, he worked in the gym pretty much all season when he wasn't playing. He had that stand-up games where he was just playing good ball, catch and shoot off the baseline, pass from LeBron James. He dribble drive, dunking on people. Like he has some really good clips of just taking the ball to the hole and dunking, playing good defense, locking up his opponents, like being a two-way scorer. He gets kind of injured out for like a weekish, comes back, Darvin Ham forgets about him. Like just put I say this on the little Toy Story meme, I don't want to play with you anymore, like type vibes. And he just puts him on the shelf, throws him out, never plays him again. So hopefully JJ Redick can see his value. I'm assuming he did. Given the contract he was just given, that's pretty much the only move we made. So yeah, I'm hoping he's a big part of this future rotation. Even Austin Reeves talked about it. They asked him like the same question Max asked, like, who's the guy you're looking forward to having a big jump? And Reeves said, for sure, Max Christie, no hesitation. So I'm excited to see him play this year.
Yeah, I agree with you on all fronts. No disagreements.
Yeah.
Now, before we close out, I did want to get Allan's opinions on, the other team that this podcast represents, the New York Knicks. What do you guys think? Alan, what do you think of the Knicks' new moves this season? Does that bring them into championship contending aspirations?
Yeah, I think the New York Knicks are definitely championship, very much a caliber team, man. They have defensive guys from point guard to even center, you could say, and they have a rotation. Like I said, you got Jalen Brunson, you got Dante DiVincenzo, you got Josh Hart, adding Mikal Bridges, and just getting hopefully a healthy Julius Randle heading to next season will be great for them. Not a huge fan of Tom Thibodeau, of course, his minutes and everything, of course, going on around that, but he is very much a great coach, and I think that under his tutelage and also that roster, they can compete versus Boston. I think they're better than Milwaukee, and I think they're better than Miami and a couple other teams. So they should aim for the first seed, if not the second seed, in my opinion, heading to this season.
I agree with you completely. Yeah. I also wanted to bring up a couple of things that happened in the New York Knicks this offseason because there's a lot of rumblings, and I want to kind of ease everybody's mind that listens to us here. So there's been a lot of shaking. There's been a lot of rumbling. There's been a lot of Miles McBride talk saying that we're going to trade him eventually because of the point guards that we brought on, Tyler Golick and Cam Johnson. I know. Thank you, Earl. And campaign. Terry Johnson. Everybody knows. Anyway,
everybody except for everybody.
Everybody except for everybody is crazy. I've seen it up and down my timeline on X. Terry Johnson is a New York Knick. Terry Johnson is a New York Knick. Terry Johnson. But no, just so everybody knows, Campaign is a New York Knick. He signed a 1-year vet. But I think we're finally in a position to where we can finally run a really good 10-man. Look, and this is contingent on bringing back Precious Achiuwa, or just sticking with Ariel Hub. I forgot how to spell his last name, but Ariel Hukporti. Thank you. So, no, you're right. It's Hukporti. But regardless, Tom Thibodeau needs to do one thing and one thing only: extend your rotation by one more player, and I promise you will be okay. I promise. He cannot be afraid to put Miles McBride at the 2 guard and have Cam Johnson, Campaign run your offense. See, I'm getting confused now. But you can't be afraid of that because now we've seen Dante DiVincenzo be able to play the 3 at a really efficient pace. Yeah. And then we've also seen Josh Hart play the 4 at a really efficient pace. There's a lot of defense in that first 4. Yeah. Maybe a little lacking. And we also have to understand Kyler Kolek is a project, and we're not going to give him some sufficient and constant minutes. He's going to get minutes when these guys are sitting. That's the way it goes. I'm sorry, but that's what's going to happen. At least for the first year. Happen with Miles Bryant, happen with Quentin Grimes. It's going to happen to the same Tyler Kolek. Let's relax. But Max, what do you think? Because I talked a lot, and I think I covered pretty much all the points. Are you a fan of Walker Kessler? Are you a fan of Ariel Hawkporty? Do you think we should bring somebody else completely?
I've always been a fan of Kessler. I think he's a little bit underrated. I think he's got a really high ceiling. Maybe he didn't have the greatest sophomore year, but certainly his rookie year, I think he made a lot of headlines. I think he's got great defensive potential. Or maybe not, I shouldn't even say defensive potential. He's already a very strong player. But I do think that, we go with Walker Kessler. That would be a great option. Kolek, Deuce McBride in the backcourt. Obviously would love to keep Deuce. I think that would be an ideal scenario. But, as I've said on this show, I think the Knicks are in good hands. We're heading in a good direction with Leon Rose. So, yeah, all overall positive there for me.
For sure. And we pass the mic to Allan real quick.
Yeah, this is a question that I want to ask you guys. What's like a hot take that you guys still hold on to? Like for me, one hot take I still hold on to is that the Lakers should have drafted Jahlil Okafor. And he was a player I loved out of college. And I know DeAndre Russell ended up being great for the Lakers, but if we've seen by history now, the Lakers did end up trading for DeAndre Russell in general. So it was like, in my opinion, if Russell was going to end up being a Laker a couple of years down the road, Jahlil Okafor, one of my favorite players coming out of college, should have been a Laker.
I like that.
And also, like, Philadelphia ruined Jahlil Okafor's career. I know that he was somewhat a bad defensive player as a center, but offensively, his post moves and everything else was so good. And I said Jahlil Okafor should have been a Laker.
Pain. Max?
Yeah, for my hot take, my two co-hosts above me are gonna, they hate me for this, and they're gonna, face palm for this. But Allan, I know I mentioned in the show, but I've been one of the biggest Quentin Grimes fans out there since day one. I think the Knicks absolutely fumbled Quentin Grimes, and the fact that he would get about 2 shots a game as a starting shooting guard, I think is unheard of. I think if Darvin Ham was doing that to someone on the Lakers, it would be all over social media, but poor Quentin Grimes got, no attention, even though he was roughly a 40% three-point shooter when he actually gets sufficient shots. So I think the Knicks absolutely fumbled him. I can't believe that Detroit didn't play him. I see amazing upside in him. I think he's going to go to Dallas, but I think Jason Kidd's going to really unlock him and kind of tie this all into a nice hot take bow. I think Quentin Grimes will end up being the best player that the Mavericks pick up this offseason. I think he's going to have more of an impact than Najee Marshall. I think he's going to have more of an impact than Klay Thompson. And if he doesn't work his way into the starting lineup and take a lot of Klay's minutes by the end of the season, I think he'll be playing essentially that amount of minutes off the bench. So I think Dallas has themselves a great player in Grimes if they choose to utilize him.
That's a good take. What do you think, Earl?
You go first.
You want to go your Kenny Lofton hot take?
Oh yeah. No, I don't even think that's going to be a hot take anymore. I think that's going to be a sufficient thing. You saw the weight
right now. It's a very hot take.
No, you saw the weight he lost. He looks really good. He could be really good for the Jazz. I think Kenny Lofton is a sleeper. I think he's going to be a really good player eventually. I don't think he's going to be. What did I say? What was my exact words, Mac? Like a goat? Did I say?
You were just high on Kenny Lofton. I forget exactly what you said. Kenny Lofton going to be a starter type thing.
I think he's going to eventually be a starter. Yeah, I think he could be the starting power forward on that Jazz team and develop his value because he's shown in Memphis that he could play under a really efficient system. And we can't forget about the game that he dropped 45, 42 in the minutes. I mean, listen, obviously he got all the minutes, but that's still impressive no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But that's a good place to end the show.
Oh, wait, I got to do mine.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
All right, my hot take is this. I'm dropping the mega hot take.
Oh, Lord.
The Detroit Pistons should have drafted Carmelo Anthony.
Oh yeah.
That's not a hot take.
No, I'm just saying, like, I live by that. Like, me and my friend, shout out to my friend Matt, we had a whole like hour and a half conversation about this, and it just reminds me of like how talented that Detroit team was. Like, you had Ben Wallace, you had Richard Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, and adding in a young rookie Melo. Yes, he wouldn't have had the instant numbers that he did on the Nuggets, but still, the biggest thing they were missing was 3-point shooting. Carmelo Anthony could have easily brought that to that team. And I think their concerns, obviously, they were kind of jam-packed at the forward position. But taking in Melo, man, oh my God, that Pistons really set themselves back. Right then and there is where they kind of set their franchise back as far as like future longevity. Like, I feel like Carmelo definitely could have stayed a Piston. He could even retire a Piston. Because Piston, we know they'll give a bag. It's not like people are going to come to – they're not going to go to Detroit and play for the Pistons. Like, you have to draft players to stay with you. You see Cade, he signed that 5-year, $200+ million. No one's turning down that type of like in-house contract. So I still believe to this day, Carmelo Anthony, if he was drafted to that team, they definitely would have won. He would have at least won one championship minimum.
They would have won that championship that year.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
That's where they were missing another like 3-point / mid-range scoring option. Melo could have fit that mold perfectly. Even if you brought him off the bench with 6-man. Not saying he even had to start, but he would have worked his way up to that position. So that's my big hot take to end all hot takes for me.
That's a really good one. I want to thank Allan so much for coming on to our podcast today. And I think we're going to wrap it up over here.
Yeah. Allan, where can people find you? You got any, personal socials to plug? Obviously.
We'll also add it in the bio.
Yep.
In that.
Yeah. Very much thank you guys for having me on. Very much enjoyed my time. And yeah, of course, follow the Quest 18 pod. Check out our Twitter /X, and also check out our Spotify, which of course will upload our podcast. So yeah, there you go.
Yes, sir.
Those links will all be in the description as well. Thank you guys. Obviously, my regular co-hosts Omar and Earl, and our special guest Allan would love to have you on again in the future. But for now, thank you so much for your valuable input in this episode. Go check out Quest for 18. I'll be rooting for the Lakers for y'all, certainly for the rest of the summer league. Hope to see some improvement there. And to our fans, if y'all made it this far, thank you so much for watching this episode. As always, find us on TikTok, find us on YouTube, find us on Spotify, all the usual locations. We're going to go enjoy some USA basketball. We're going to go enjoy some summer league. Hope you all do the same. So have a good week. Same place, same time next week. Adios, everyone.
Peace.
I got infinity money.